talking in my group, and of course you should all join my Facebook group. It's great. It's only $4.99 a month. It's like the best money you will ever spend, according to many group members, because of the amount and depth of discussion in there about topics having to do with relationships, sex, career, self, parenting, everything that people struggle with that follow Dr. Psych Mom. Anyway, so there was discussion about, hormones. And so if your wife says that she's massively impacted by hormones and hormonal changes, this is real. It's just like if you're depressed, that's real. If you have ADHD, that's real. If you have anxiety, that's real. So sometimes it seems that people take a partner saying that they have a disorder as like an excuse, like, oh, I don't ever have to clean up because I have depression, or I don't have to work on our sex life because I have low T or something. And that's not healthy, right? But also not explaining what's going on is crazy too. I mean, that's like absolutely like gaslighting yourself and the other person for real, And so it's a balance between taking ownership and explaining something, and then, of course, not just trying to use it as an excuse. And sometimes, by the way, I mean, this is obviously not popular in our culture to hear, because we're not super good as a culture on acceptance, like of age, of death, of anything we don't like, right? And a lot of times, like in about up to 30% of cases or more, depression is treatment resistant, meaning that it's failed multiple medications and therapy, and that kind of is how the person is. And so they can try to be as, different, but it would be like trying to fly if you have no wings. And sometimes people have lots of side effects on medication, because often women say, when the guys on the internet say, well, why doesn't the woman just take some hormones, Then they say, well, why don't you just take Viagra like every single day, even though your doctor might tell you not to because of the other meds you're on? And that's a very valid point. Many people have bad side effects of medication, and it's contraindicated. Many people have bad side effects of taking hormones, of taking Viagra, of taking anything, right? So the response when your partner tells you about an issue that they have is not to say that's an excuse, you could fix it if you wanted to, but to really do a deep dive and with them and to talk about it. What have they tried? What have they tried and it hasn't worked? You have to do a deep dive internally. If then they just can't change, what can you stay? If you make peace with that, for example, your wife isn't lazy, she's depressed, does that change it for you? When some people their kids are diagnosed with ADHD, parenting becomes a lot easier, because they're like, oh, he's not lazy, he's not disrespectful on purpose. He has ADHD, so he's more impulsive. His brain is literally different than my brain. Or some people think, oh shit, it's like my brain. We have like the same brain. And I remember I struggled a lot in school too, or whatever. So, this whole explanation versus excuse is an interesting topic, and one that you should be discussing with your spouse about whatever issues you have, whatever issues they have. A lot of times people try their very hardest in therapy, with meds, with exercise, with diet, all this stuff. And whatever issue they're dealing with, whatever chronic issue they're dealing with does not go away. It waxes and wanes in severity, and it doesn't ever fully go away. And people change with age. It goes one direction. People don't gain more strength and more health as they get older and older. That's just not real. And our culture doesn't like to admit that. So that is what I think about the explanation versus excuse sort of way of conceptualizing a partner's inability to change and the potential